Okay, so let's go through some trading guidelines. Now this, I just gave you one, and this is an example. This happens to be the ES, but it could be anything. You're looking for these. You're looking for two-sided activity, and there's, there are periods of time where you have that obvious box, okay, the obvious balance area. So you don't, if you'll know when you're ready to trade something that is not perfect when you see it and you don't think about, well, is it or isn't it? If you think, is it or isn't it, don't trade it. At this point, the test is, oh, yeah, okay, I see that. If you're sitting there more than about 5 seconds and you have to wonder, is it or is it not, it's not, okay, for practical purposes. Over time, that will change, and you will be more comfortable and you'll recognize more two-sided activity that doesn't fit, the nice, neat, symmetrical, square box on a bar chart or Gaussian shape on a profile chart. Now, here are some general guidelines, and you've heard me talk about this, and they are important. Don't get caught on the wrong side of the HVN for long, of the high volume node. Do you know what that means? And there's two parts, wrong for long. Now, does that mean I won't take a short trade if price is above here or a long trade if it's below it? Absolutely not. That is not what that means. But what it does mean is if I take a short trade up here, I'm not going to be in that trade for very long if I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, I'm going to get run over, and that's fine. If I take the trade and I'm risking from here to here to catch from here to here, that's okay. Now, what I don't want to be doing is entering here and here, randomly. So rule number one, don't get caught on the wrong side of the high volume node for long. This is a great rule. Yeah, James, you say favor the price side, but that has another part to it too. Favor the price side as long as you're close to the high volume node. If you get up in here, then you don't necessarily favor the price side. You may not have an edge. If you're near the high volume node, the only edge you have in the absence of additional information is to trade on the price side of the high volume node. James, a lot of people struggle with trades near the high volume node. We're going to talk about that. And this is a huge no-no, and this is something that you're going to do, especially if you're new. You're focusing on trade location. You get in a great trade location. The market moves, 3 or 4 handles or 3 or 4 points in the S&P, and you just can't stand it. You take it off. And that's a waste of great trade location. Don't waste good trade location. It's valuable. The trade location is valuable real estate. And if you find yourself having entered a trade and that trade starts to work, and this gets back to, you can play games with yourself about, this is another game you can play with yourself. As long as you're annotating your trades on your charts, you can see what you're doing over time. Now, it's asking too much of a lot of people, depending on where you're on the curve. And I realize that, to say, okay, I'm going to enter here and I'm going to ride it all the way here. Most traders are not going to do that. They're going to have to learn to do that. And the way you learn to do it is to get here and take your profits in here, and then go back in 90 days and see the 12 trades out of, let's say, I don't know, 50 that you took off here, and you'd still be in on 90 days later. So that's where you will learn. It's not me telling you to do it in some dogmatic fashion. You're going to have to see it, and I know that. But this gets back to, this is a forgiving way to trade. You don't have to get in here and get out here unfailingly, or you're a loser and you're never going to be able to do this. It's going to take you time to condition yourself to do these things. Even when you know intellectually to do them, you're going to have to prove to yourself and see your execution and how your execution plays out. Don't lower your stop. If you get in here, this can be something that can help you get more out of your trades. If you get in a trade up here, remember, time is a big component, a more sophisticated understanding and use of time and trading as an auction market trader than what your one-to-one trader uses. Most people out there, time is their enemy. You want to make time your friend. So understand what your expectation is for a trade in terms of time, and then I think it will help you stay with your trades longer that haven't been invalidated from a price action perspective, but there has not been what you're looking for, in terms of the return yet. And so one of the things that can help you with this, instead of getting in here, you get in here within, you get good trade location, and let's say you're 6 ticks away from getting stopped out, and then the trade moves 6 ticks, and then it trades back up here, and now you've got a loss by a tick, and then it trades 7 ticks lower. You're going, oh, I want to take it so bad, and then it trades back, and then it begins to form a balance area up here. Well, if you will grit your teeth, if the trade hasn't been invalidated, and just have a rule that you're not going to lower your stop until the high volume node has been reached, that can be something that can help you. Yeah, James, you bring up a good point. You say this has been one of your biggest problems. The math you showed earlier is the reason to stay in. The probability of, well, what it is, the probability of the winning trade is reduced, but also the expectancy of the trade is reduced. If you just use this as an excuse for good trade location, actually, you can really have a high percentage of winning trades, but you degrade the expectancy if you lower your stop arbitrarily. You don't lower your stop until you have an auction market reason to do so. And we'll talk more about this too. But one of those reasons is, okay, I get in up here and the market starts to, flounders around for an hour and a half. And then all of a sudden I have this wide range bar to the downside. Okay, that's conviction. Now I have a reason. I can lower my stop to say above the extreme of the high volume node here to one degree or another, because I have conviction. And if the market is indeed going to reject this level, and it spent time up here, and then I see conviction away from it, then I can hide behind, I can use that conviction to manage my trade. And that, once again, that's an example of trading market structure and trading market conviction, as opposed to this money management scheme business and arbitrary stops and targets that everybody else trades. Robert, you say when you reach the high volume node, where would you move your stop to? I don't know, but it would be behind some market structure that had been created from here to the high volume node, such as the example I just gave with conviction. Yeah, Troy, absolutely. Let me enable you here. Troy, you're live.
Okay, thanks. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. One thing, Tom, I wanted to mention and then get your input on it also. If that balance area, and I'm just going to use a hypothetical, is, let's just say 40 handles on the ES. You know, you've got a wide range balance area. And the high volume node's 20 handles from the upper extreme. A lot, and obviously it's going to also depend on market condition. In other words, are you in an uptrend and it's a counter trend trade? A lot of times if you've got a wide range balance, I personally, and they'll hear me do it in the room sometimes, is let's just say from the upper extreme to the HVN, it might be 20 handles, and it's a counter trend trade. I will, and this gets into, you know, me personally, look to take a partial maybe in the HVN. And then also, like I said, it depends on how wide that balance is too. Would you like to comment on that at all?
Yeah, the
reason I'm saying this, guys, is these rules are great rules, but I just don't want you to say that just because rule number 3 says don't lower your stop until you get to the HVN. There's always exceptions to rules, guys, and that was the point I wanted to make. That's all I wanted, Tom, so you can mute me back if you want.
No, that you bring up a wonderful point. And this doesn't contradict anything that I've said. If you think back, I don't know if I've said it in where I've said it, but I'll say it here. I think I've said it in a previous session. I do so many trade lessons and webinars, I can't keep up with what I said when and where. But if you're in a trade, if I get in here, and Troy brings up a good point, you don't know the range of this, and I'll talk about that because that merits some discussion. You don't know the range of this structure. Now, this is a multi-day structure. Here, this is a multi-day structure, so I don't know what the range is. I'm talking as a guideline, and this is a good rule. But a better rule is, if I enter, let's say it's an S&P trade, and I enter a trade up here, and I have a 2.5 handle initial risk, and if the S&P trades drops 9 or 10 handles, and especially if it hits a high volume node, yes, I am absolutely going to take a partial profit. You're not going to hurt yourself if you're taking trades with a reward of 3 times your risk, regardless of what happens. If this thing goes to zero. Now, it's a little bit more of a conundrum if you're trading one contract. Actually, it's a much larger conundrum. Trading one contract is the most difficult way to trade because then you really do have a conundrum. I've got a 3-to-1 trade. All right, I have 9 handles in this trade. That's $450. And if I have a 5, a 7, a 10, a $15,000 account, that's a big chunk percentage-wise. That I don't want to let that go. So then you have a conundrum, and I can't give you a definitive answer. I cannot give you a definitive answer as to what you should do, except for the record-keeping thing. If you're keeping records and you go back and you're giving up an inordinate number of 3-to-1 winning trades, there's your answer. You got to take it off and build that account. So trading one lots is a tough row to hoe. Now, the other thing about balance areas is, and I have had this happen with mentoring clients that think, okay, all I have to do is identify this structure in some time frame because it's a fractal process and all the rules apply, so I'm going to trade balance areas all day long and it's going to work. And I have had some real pushback from clients that have said, well, I traded this balance area and it didn't work. And the reality is, guys, balance areas are ubiquitous because you have this auction process that is in effect in all degrees of time all the time. and whether or not this balance area is tradable depends on this over here. Anyway, it depends on a price scale. If this is a 3-handle range, points, 3 points in the ES, it's really, you know, a little, unless you're using it as a continuation type of trade on a day like today where you're buying it down here and stopping it out here, there's no edge in this. The smaller the structure, the less stable its properties are, because you get into randomness. Because it's, now let's take a hypothetical. Let's say this is instead of a 3-point range, it's a 30-point range. So that's 30 points. Now it's a tradable structure. And it's the difference between this 30-point range and a 3-point range. The difference is that the 3-point range is tiny. The 30-point range has a bunch of the 3-point ranges in it that comprise it. So you want to be careful about going too granular and using the fact that the auction process is fractal as an excuse to enter trades that really don't have an edge. So not all of these balance areas have an edge just because they don't have enough range to have an edge. I want to make that very clear because I have been bitten by my own words, not having made that point clear before. Troy, that's a great point. And it gets back to you got to put all this in context. You know, we're in this to make money, you know, and some of this is common sense. If I get in a trade and I have a 3, 4, 5 to 1 reward, you know, the gift horse, if I get in a trade and the market just absolutely craters and I have multiple positions on, yeah, I'm going to take a partial profit. And quite frankly, when you're able to do that, and this gets more into nuances, if the S&P is, you know, is contested as every tick is in the S&P, if the S&P drops 10 handles without a retracement, you can almost be assured if you take something off, you'll be able to put it back on 3 or 4 handles higher. So it's sort of a way to add alpha to your position. And that's another reason so many people don't make money in the S&P, because, you know, the S&P will drop 10 handles on its way to 40 handles down. It'll retrace 5 handles and they get stopped out. And then it, you know, then it takes out the previous low and they're left with nothing. All right, this speaks to the idea about the 3-to-1 trade. So I had sort of addressed this. You know, if you're in a sizable enough structure, and this is a guideline. I mean, you know, I've said before, if you keep your records and you have a bunch of 2-to-1, you consistently have 2-to-1 trades that go against you, something needs to be adjusted. You know, you can afford, if you have, you know, if you're one of these people that has the ability to consistently identify a high percentage of winning trades, you know, if you identify 50% winning trades and you have, and at 2-to-1, you take them. But this gets back to the importance of you keeping statistics, your own records, so that you know what you're able to identify and what you're not. And you will find, you know, in working with clients over the years, I'm amazed at the abilities that clients have the different abilities they have to see different things and to exploit those things that they see. And all of you are not going to trade this the same way. It's the same methodology. You'll be trading the same concepts. You may even trade the same contracts, but you're going to have different results. James, absolutely. The bid-ask spread and the commissions alone will get you on a 3-point range. Yes.